Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I'm going to talk about a tragedy out of Baltimore County that's near where I live. I live in the city. But you have another case of police brutality. This sister by the name of Korryn Gaines, an African American woman who was 23 years old, she was killed by the police. And according to news reports, the police came to her house to arrest her. They were arresting her for failing to appear for some minor violations. She had a court date back in March and she failed to appear. She was charged with resisting arrest at the time, and she was also charged with some minor traffic violations. So the police were coming to the residence to arrest her for failing to appear. And also, her boyfriend was facing a warrant as well. They were there to arrest him as well for an assault charge, if I'm not mistaken. So when the police come, they knock on the door, and she refuses to answer the door. This is according to the police account and according to news sources. The police knock on the door and they could hear that someone's in the house. So they wait around a few minutes, and then after she refuses to open the door, they go to the rental office, they get the keys to the premises, and then they walk into the premises. And when they go into the premises, when they look in there, they see Korryn Gaines with a shotgun, and she's sitting on the floor with her son nearby. So the police at that time, they don't raid the place or anything because they see that she's armed. And according to these news reports, her boyfriend encouraged her to not resist the police and just turn herself in. And apparently the whole time she was on social media recording the encounter, videotaping, and putting it on Instagram, and I think it was also on Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. And according to the police, many of the people that she was communicating with on social media were encouraging her to resist the police or to not surrender to the police. And the police claimed that because of that, they decided to contact Facebook and Instagram and encourage those sites to deactivate her account. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. That raises some serious questions that I want to talk about later on. So after this, apparently the police say that while they were trying to enter the residence, Korryn Gaines pointed the shotgun at the police and threatened to shoot them if they entered the premises. And at one point, the police say that she pointed the gun at them, so they fired and they missed. They missed her. They shot at her, but they missed. And then she shot at them several times. And then the police shot and killed her. And apparently during this shooting, her son, a 5-year-old, was hit. And according to the news reports, it's not clear whether or not he was hit by the police or whether or not she shot him. So that's the situation that you have. A young black woman, 23 years old, in the prime of her life, killed. This whole thing raises a lot of questions. First of all, there's video of her earlier encounter with the police when they stopped her for some traffic violations. Apparently, she didn't have license plates on her car. She didn't have tags and all that kind of stuff. She had some makeshift cardboard in place of her actual license plates. And for that reason, they stopped her. And I saw the video, and she was rather belligerent, in that video of the police stop. And she actually said that they're going to have to murder her before they arrest her at that time when she was being stopped for a traffic violation. So, just that encounter, that videotape of how she was interacting with the police, and then some other videotape of her the day of the shooting raised serious questions for me about her mental state. I think that she suffered, as soon as I saw those videos, I thought, well, she probably suffers from some kind of mental condition. And then it turns out, as I was reading further about this case, she apparently suffered from lead poisoning. There was a pending lawsuit that basically said that she suffered a lot of neurological damage as a result of exposure to lead. And the doctor's report basically says that she has anger issues and she engages in impulsive types of behavior. And that account seems to be accurate. I mean, I don't know this woman, obviously. I haven't like done some thorough research on her personality or anything. But even her own mother raised questions about her mind state. Her mother said that she didn't want to listen. She said that her mother said that she had poor decision making skills and that she needs guidance. So apparently she did suffer from some mental issues or some mental health type of problems. So that explains like her erratic behavior because according to the accounts, her boyfriend who was in the house at the time encouraged her to surrender to the police. She ignored him. She ignored the police when they asked her to surrender and all that kind of stuff. And her boyfriend apparently left the house when this whole thing was going on, and the police arrested him, and he's facing charges and all that kind of stuff. But even, assuming that these reports of mental illness are accurate, assuming that she exercised poor judgment, which she obviously did, because no one in their right mind would place themselves and their child in danger over an arrest for some minor charges. So she obviously exercised poor judgment. And if these allegations about lead poisoning are true, then it's not her fault. She suffered from some kind of condition that made her disabled in some kind of way, mentally disabled. And the way these police responded showed that they exercised poor judgment themselves. Police are supposed to be trained in how to deal with mentally um, ill people or the disabled or people who are irritable or just people who have um, a certain disposition. They're supposed to be trained in how to negotiate and how to resolve a situation, to de escalate a situation. But here, these police exercised very poor judgment. First of all, it's not like this woman was holding hostages. It wasn't a situation that required an immediate breach of the house and an immediate taking her out or anything like that. This is not a terrorist situation. She wasn't holding hostages. She didn't kill anybody or anything like that. So they could have handled that in a much more professional kind of way. There's no reason why they couldn't have waited out the situation. There's absolutely no reason for that. So, I mean, obviously, these people were ill trained. And if they were properly trained, they didn't implement their training. And if I was, her family, I would sue the city, sue the county for this tragedy, for this wrongful death, because it could have been avoided. There was no need to immediately go in there, knowing that she was armed and knowing that these were some minor charges that she faced. Also, there are several questions about this situation. During this whole encounter, the police contacted social media and they requested that Facebook and Instagram deactivate Korryn Gaines' accounts. They say that they did that because people on social media were encouraging her to resist the police That's what they say. But when I look at this situation, I think of the situation involving Philando Castile and how his girlfriend recorded um, the shooting shortly after he was shot and killed by the police. Um, and they probably may have had that in mind when they decided to deactivate her accounts. Like perhaps they were trying to hide something. Perhaps they didn't want the world to see this event unfold and they didn't want to have evidence of what actually happened. So, in the event of criminal charges being filed against the police or a civil action, they probably did that. It's possible, well, let me put it that way. It's possible that they may have deactivated those accounts to avoid civil liability and criminal charges. That's a real possibility, and it raises all kinds of red flags because social media is used right now as one of the few safeguards that we have against the police state. It's one of the few means that we have to document the actions of these police. For them to cancel or deactivate her accounts during that time raises serious questions. Also, according to some of the reports that I have read, Baltimore County Police are supposed to have body cameras. But according to these news reports, none of these police had body cameras on. Why didn't they have body cameras? That's what I want to know. What is their rational explanation as to why they did not have body cameras? Also, I want to know who shot Korryn Gaines' uh, son. Why isn't that information known to us? What are they trying to hide? It seems like if they had evidence that she shot her own son, they would have been quick to put that evidence out there. They would have been quick to do so. So the fact that they don't know and they're not disclosing that right now raises serious questions about the possibility that these police shot a 5-year-old boy. They jeopardized the life of a boy over some minor violations. They could have waited her out. They could have arrested her at a more at a time where there was less risk to the public and less risk to all parties involved. So again, as I said, why didn't they wait her out? That's one of the questions that I have. Another question that I have is about her firearm. Like before this shooting occurred, she recorded videos of herself with this gun. My question is, how could somebody with a mental disability, again, assuming that these reports are true, assuming that these reports of her family filing a lawsuit based on her suffering um, neurological damage as a result of exposure to lead paint. If somebody suffers from such a disability, how are they able to obtain firearms and risk the public safety when this woman is described by her doctor in the doctor's report as being angry and engaging in impulsive behavior? Why is somebody like that allowed to obtain a firearm? And in the description box, I will post links to the video so that you can see them for yourself. The video of her interacting with the police back when they stopped her for some traffic violations, and then some of the videos that she posted during the day when she was shot. She was shot on Monday, so there's video of her videotaping the police as they try to enter the residence. There's video of her talking to her son, where she's asking him about what are the police trying to do and asking him whether or not he wants to leave the house. And that video, again, that's another example of something that raises my question, raises questions for me about her mental state. The fact that she's questioning her son and apparently coaching him to say certain things or whatever, those raise questions for me. So tell me what you think about this situation. I want to hear from you. This whole thing raises a lot of questions, and it's outrageous that this young woman is killed by the police when they could have avoided this situation. They could have handled it better. Of course, she made poor decisions, and it may not be her fault due to the condition that she has, apparently, or a reported condition. So, yeah, those are just my thoughts about this situation. It's tragic, it's unfortunate, and the people need to demand justice. They need to demand answers to a lot of these questions. So, with that, I'll say please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.